welcome back. It is episode number 3. I apologize for how long it took to get this video up for driving lesson number 3. But this time we're going to take you through the roads, and we're going to take you through a couple of things that are going to be really, really important on your driver's road test as well. So these are things that you're going to have to get used to, things that you're going to have to make sure they're good at before they ever book their road test, because these are things that they're going to actually have to do in each and every road test, no matter what jurisdiction you're in. We want to make sure we get this right. So today we're going to talk all about being on the roads. We're going to talk about side roads. We're going to talk about main roads. We'll get the kids onto the main roads, and we'll also talk about eye movement. That's another big thing in mirror checks as well. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so one of the biggest things that they have to do before we ever start driving out on these roads is check mirrors. Mirror checks become extremely important. Not just this rear view mirror, but we're also talking about the side mirrors as well. So you've got your 2 side mirrors and this mirror. Now, how often should you be checking this? Well, the biggest thing is to know your surroundings at all times. There are some that suggest an official 3-second interval. So every 3 seconds from looking at the road, you check your mirrors, just like that. And every 5 to 10 seconds, give a glance to the side mirrors. Realistically, we're probably looking at every 5 seconds or so for the rear view mirror. And on a road test, that will be extremely important. You're going to want to check the mirror frequently, and every 5 seconds should be enough. But basically, what we want to be telling the driver is we are going from road minimum eye lead time, which we talked about. So remember, that's 10 to 15 seconds ahead at all times. That's right up here. That is not right here. Okay? Drivers have a tendency to not be able to drive straight because they're constantly looking here. But really, the reality is the eyes should be up. And remember, you can say that, eyes up. Remember from last lesson, they should be looking up here. That way they know in the next 15 seconds, that's where they're going to be. Okay? So minimum eye lead time, check the mirror every 3 to 5 seconds. A little bit longer between mirror checks on the sides. But again, this one is the most important. Okay? Rear view mirror. We've got to know what's going on around us at all times. Okay, so we are ready to hit the road, and that means that we cannot move away from this side of the road until we do a few certain things. This is, again, every single time we pull away. And on a road test, they're looking for this. So remember, you've got to make sure that they're doing it. Here's what we're doing. We are looking 360 degrees around the vehicle as best we possibly can. So what that means is we are looking this way. Is anybody coming? We are looking this way. Is anybody coming? Even behind us. Then as we pull away, we are going to our signal. And we are signaling to the left. Before when you can see my tire pressure's low. We're going to have to fix that. Signaling to the left, and then we are checking our blind spot before we pull away from the side of the road. We can also include a mirror check in there to make sure there's nobody coming behind us. In fact, I would highly recommend that. And then we move ahead. Okay, so we are driving along, and again, we are just in a neighborhood. We're looking 10 to 15 seconds ahead. Now, we talked about minimum eye lead time, but 10 to 15 seconds ahead for me right now is that forest up ahead, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 10 to 15 seconds ahead of where the vehicle is going to go. So make sure that your driver knows that we aren't talking 10 to 15 seconds necessarily straight ahead. We're talking 10 to 15 seconds ahead of where the vehicle is going to go, which in our case is around the curve. Okay, so we are going to, and I'm just going to disconnect the cable here, just going up here. So again, part of why we do this is where the car actually goes when we're looking. the car has a tendency to be controlled easier when we are looking 10 to 15 seconds ahead. So in fact, it might seem counterintuitive to look way up here into this curve, but it actually helps you guide the car around the curve. You may not even realize as a driver today that you're doing this all the time, but you really are. And that's why if you see people that kind of take these curves in a funny way, it's oftentimes because they are looking right into the curve rather than ahead of the curve where you're going to want to go. Okay, so we're coming around this curve and we are looking ahead. Now watch what happens. My vehicle is turning with the speed of the car. Okay, so again, your steering wheel should turn with the speed of the car. And if you're looking far ahead, you can see I'm not changing my lane position in any way. That's because I am looking ahead of me 10 to 15 seconds ahead of the road. So if I'm defining that for you right now, that is now straight ahead. We are looking at this particular end of the road sign is where kind of my eyes are trained right now. Okay, so I'm going to just back that off so you can see where we're going. All right, so we're driving along here. Now I'm going to actually make a left-hand turn. So I'm going to signal. Now, for my driver, one of the things I want to make sure they're doing, if you're going left, you're going close to the middle of the road. Your driver's side should be close to the middle of the road, not toward the curb. I'm going left, right? So as I'm going left, here I come. I'm going left. I'm going to use hand over hand steering, and I'm going to look, again, 10 to 15 seconds ahead, which is actually over by this for sale sign that's fallen over, okay? So that to me is where I'm looking after I've checked the intersection. So the first thing I'm going to do is look left and then center and then right. Apologize that the camera just fell there. And as soon as I've seen left, center, right, all clear, I'm looking at that sign, and you can see now when I look at that sign, that gives me a nice square left turn in a perfect position. I let the wheel slide back, and I'm actually right in the middle of my lane in a perfect left-hand turn position, again, mostly because I've maintained my minimum eye lead time. So this is where you really need to get your driver to understand how important the minimum eye lead time really truly is. And if they're not doing it, remember the command that is easiest to use with them, that helps them remember, is eyes up. So as I'm driving along, let's assume I'm drifting. Now, first of all, let me get around this construction trailer here because I am drifting on purpose. All right, we're back into the lane here. All right, so here we are driving along. Apologies for the vibrations in the camera. It's a construction zone. And I start to maybe kind of drift to the middle. Eyes up. Maybe I'm drifting to the right. Here's an intersection, left, center, and right. Nobody coming. It's not an always stop. I just continue on. But I'm drifting a little bit to the right, so eyes up. And we come to the end of the road. At the end of the road, we're going to turn right. So right about here, this is not where we're going to go up close to the intersection. A driver examiner is asking you to signal right here. This is about 150 to 200 feet from the intersection. We don't signal when we get to the intersection. We signal our intent well in advance. We're checking our mirrors, and we're pulling a little bit closer to the curb to make this right-hand turn. Now, again, we've talked about in video 2 that we need to turn with the speed of the car, and we need to look 10 to 15 seconds ahead. So in this case, that's up here, okay, where that car just drove by. That's where I'm looking when I try to make this turn. So here I go. I'm going around this curve. I'm looking at that spot, and I'm going with the speed of the car. That allows me to stay a nice foot or two off the curb, a nice close right turn, eyes up. Now I'm looking 15 seconds ahead, and I've drifted right perfectly into the middle of my lane, and I begin to accelerate again. Another curve, that light to the right, that light standard, or maybe even that cable box, that's where I'm looking is 10 to 15 seconds, and I begin to curve into this curve with the speed of my car. That keeps me in the middle of my lane, and as I come up here, eyes up, 10 to 15 seconds ahead, and let the wheel drift back, and we're perfectly in our lane again. Okay, so that's really neighborhood driving. You're going to want to spend a lot more time than I just did. This is 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes of a video. You're going to want to make sure that they spend more time doing this. In the next section, we are going to talk about getting them onto the faster, speedier roads. All right, this is going to be a very nerve-wracking point of this drive. We are driving around in a curve here, just kind of practicing along, helping the driver to get some of this extended practice with minimum eye lead time, steering with the speed of the car. We're watching for pedestrians. We're checking the bottom of the road or the tires of these cars to make sure they're not pulling out. When we do that, we pass a car. One of the things we need to make sure we do, and we call it cover the horn, okay? Why are we covering the horn? Well, when you're looking at parked cars that we just passed, you want to make sure that those tires aren't pulling away, and you want to be able to communicate if they are. So that's an important piece to this puzzle as well. When you have a vehicle at the side of the road, you want to make sure you're checking the tires, glancing down at them, looking for any pedestrian feet that might be crossing in front of that vehicle. Here's a couple of vehicles over here, so I'm going to do this with you. Here's our nice left-hand turn. Okay, we're going to go square, minimum eye lead time, eyes up. Now these cars are facing in the wrong direction, but we can get this example for that. You see we've got 3 cars over here. We are checking their tires, and we are covering the horn, as I said, so that's just a thumb over the horn, okay? And as we check these cars as we go by, we're still maintaining our minimum eye lead time. And more cars here. We're looking for pedestrian feet. Again, just the ability to communicate as you go by these cars, okay? And if we were to see a car, just a quick beep. Or a car pulling out, rather, or a pedestrian, just a quick beep. We don't want to scare the crap out of them. We want to make sure that they're just aware that we are here, okay? So that's that communication. We've got a little bit of a roundabout here, and now it's time to take you on the main, and your driver on the main roads. So we're going to come up here. We've got a major intersection, or semi-major, I guess, in this area. Again, big truck here. I'm looking straight ahead, I'm checking my mirror, and then I'm looking at his tires, cover the horn, drive on by, eyes up. That vehicle was not pulling away. Okay, so now your driver comes up to this stop sign. This is a much bigger road. Again, left, center, right applies. We are looking to the left. We are looking to the center. We are looking to the right. To the right, we have a school bus, but because we're turning right, we are not concerned. We continue to turn with the speed of the car, so we end up in our middle of our lane. Now we're going to have our driver accelerate. This is going to be something that they're a little bit nervous about, okay? But they do need to get up to the speed limit, because when they get up there, they're safer than actually going slower, okay? So now we've told our driver we're going to go left at the intersection. Left, signal. Check the blind spot. Check the mirror behind you. Pull into this lane, maintaining a minimum eye lead time. We come up to our stop, of course, with the stop. You see there's a stop line. That is where we stop. We do not stop at the crosswalk when there's a line. It's a line is where you stop. If there is no line, then just before the crosswalk is fine. If there is no crosswalk, we can go all the way up to the edge of this road. Now, in my case, I'm going to release this just so you can see. I've got cars coming to the left. It's rather busy. I've got cars coming to the right. I'm looking for a clear spot. I'm going to put this phone back because, again, it's illegal to drive with a cell phone in my hand. But you know what we're looking at here, okay? So now I'm going to look for my space. I'm going to look for my minimum eye lead time, okay? So my minimum eye lead time, again, just like in any other left turn that we've been doing, is up ahead in the curve. I'm going to come out, steer with the speed of the car, looking ahead, eyes up, and we're right perfectly in the middle of our lane. Let's get up to the speed limit now so we're not bothering the drivers behind us. Now, in the case of a driver exam, you're going to want to make sure that your driver is only driving the speed limit, and that's it. You cannot go more than 1 or 2 over, and preferably not even more than 1 in a driver test. in a driving lesson where you're teaching them to drive more on a collision-free style, safety style, you're going to teach them something that's called go with the flow. Check my mirror, eyes up, drifted a little bit there, so we got eyes up. We're back 10 to 15 seconds ahead. Okay, green light, we're just letting them know that this is the point of no return, which means I cannot stop if the amber light, if it changes to amber. Okay, so we have to always make sure they understand that too. There is a certain point where if it changes to amber, don't slam on your brakes. You are going to have to go. Okay, so call it out. When you're doing this, call it out. Let them know this is your point of no return. Let them get used to what that looks like. Now, as I pull up against this car here, and behind this car, I should say, I'm checking my mirror. Why am I doing that? The reason I'm checking my mirror is if somebody's hurtling up behind you and you need escape space, you still have it at this point, and you can move off into a lane to the right, to the left. Now, we always want to teach our drivers to be in the right-hand lane, especially for a driver's exam. So here we're going to teach a very easy lane change. The biggest thing you want to teach with your lane change is looking at the mirror. When you glance at the mirror, you'll see the headlights of the car behind you in the right-hand lane. If you see the headlights in that mirror, you have enough space to go. If you see just the back of the car in that mirror, you do not have enough space to go. You must wait till you see the headlights in the back of your mirror, or in the rear view mirror, before you can move over into that space. I'm just waiting for this guy to go by. You can see him in a second. I'm checking my mirror now. I have nobody else there. I can actually make a safe lane change. You can't do that in an intersection, so let that intersection pass. Signal to the right. And I'm going to just quickly glance over my shoulder for my blind spot to make sure nobody else was in there. We can see this guy's turning right into the parking lot. So we just make sure we plan for that. That's, again, a planning of our route. And we watch that guy who is just about to turn left, and we cover the horn. Okay? Anytime you see something, here we go, vehicle to the right. Now, had I gotten up there in time, I would have covered the horn to make sure he didn't pull out in front of me. Okay, so our eyes are moving at all times. And the reason we're doing that is we've already had a couple of hazards that could happen to us out here already. So we see up here, guy about to turn left. I'm left, center, right, and covering the horn. I see him, just covering the horn in case he tries to move in front of me. Now I can return to 10 and 2. Eyes up, minimum my lead time, driving along. Perfect time to practice a lane change. Let's tell our driver, we're gonna make a lane change here. Check your mirror, no headlights in the back, signal to the left, check your blind spot, and we are going to just slide the wheel over only slightly. One of the things you have to remember, there's a perfect lane change there, eyes up. 10 to 15 seconds is the top of the hill only here. So our eyes are guided on that. And then as we get over the hill, back up, so eyes up, and we can see 10 to 15 seconds ahead again. Beautiful work. Okay, let's just talk about that lane change for a second while we have a straightaway. The lane change here is important because you will find that a lot of times your student is going to jerk the wheel into the next lane. We really, really want to show them that it's just an ever so slight tilt of the steering wheel to slide over into the next lane. Now this is interesting. We know that school buses stop at train tracks. Now we didn't get to them in time, but had we would just cover the horn as we go by. Obviously we check the train tracks as well as we go over them. Left, center, right, just like an intersection. Eyes up, mirror, eyes up, left, center, right, mirror, point of no return, left, center, right, eyes up to the top of the hill. What we're doing here as we drive along, we're going with the flow a little bit. We're a little bit over the speed limit. That's okay. Go with the flow is important. Okay, go with the flow is actually the safest way to drive. Obviously within reason. If somebody up in front of you is going 900 miles an hour, that's a different story. Don't do that. But if it just takes you to 3 or 4 over, you're okay to just go with that flow, maintaining good space. Here we got a school bus. We want at least a car length space. If you can maintain 2 car lengths in front of, or in front of you, as you approach larger vehicles like a school bus, that helps you to see around it, helps you to see your surroundings much better, and gives you more escape space if somebody's crazily coming behind you. It gives you a place to go. That's something we always want to think about. If you're too close to the car in front of you, it's always your fault if you hit them. If you ever hit somebody from behind, it's always your fault. Part of that is because they'll tell you you didn't leave enough space, even in an intersection. So even if somebody's hurtling towards you from behind and you use that little bit of space you left to escape and hit the guy in front of you, that's your fault, because you could have had a lot more space and you could have escaped into the left or right hand lane. Okay, so we probably spent too much time in the left hand lane here based on a road test. They would want you to move back. I'm staying in the left hand lane because I'm doing something called plan your route, and that is that I want to go left here. So since I know that, I'm staying in this lane. I'm going to signal to the left. Again, this is just like a lane change. Check my blind spot and only slightly move the steering wheel so I'm not jerking the car into this lane. I get to the intersection and I want to leave 1 car's length excuse me, behind this line. As I sit at an intersection waiting to go left, I am looking around. A lot of things are happening. There's things to the left that you can't see on camera. There's a school bus, things to the right. We've got a lot of cars coming, a van beside us that likely can't see what we're doing. We also can't really see past him, so we want to keep an eye on things that are going on in the intersection. We've got pedestrians coming up. They're going to walk very shortly in front of us, potentially, although I think they missed their light. We have an advanced screen here, so we're probably going to get to go once this light changes. And an advanced screen, we're going to just, again, accelerate as we always do, look 10 to 15 seconds ahead, so that way we turn with the speed of the vehicle, nice and square, eyes up, and we're okay. We're on another side street here now, and we did it. A great first lesson on the larger roads. Again, what I would recommend is you watch this video a couple of times. That's not because I want views. It's because it's going to really, you're going to pick up a couple of things on the roads that you probably wouldn't have if you just watched it once. So I want to make sure that you guys are utilizing these tips to make sure the minimum eye lead time is there, checking the mirrors, especially the rear view mirror every few seconds, making sure you're aware of your surroundings, making sure on your lane changes as you signal, check your blind spot, and you find that the headlights in the rear view mirror to make sure you have enough space. I want you to also make sure that your driver is only slightly turning the wheel. You may even want to do that with them for the very first lane change. You may just want to reach over and just touch the wheel, slide it, show them how little you have to move the wheel to do a lane change. There's nothing worse than a jerky lane change. Road test examiners hate it. You'll hate it. And it's something that can be easily taught, and again, should be taught very early. The other thing is left, center, right at intersections, leaving enough space in front of you for an escape route. We'll talk about that in more detail as we get a little more advanced here in the next lesson, but we want to make sure that escape route's there. And then there's, again, other things like covering the horn with parked cars, making sure you're just kind of glancing at the wheels, glancing at the front of the car, making sure there's no pedestrians walking out in front of that car. Those are the really important items that you're getting from this video. That's a lot, right? That's a big summary. There's a lot there, and so I want you to make sure you watch this a couple of times. Have your driver watch it, have them watch my route, watch what we're doing, and then have them try it all as well. Okay, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We'll get video number 4 up here for you as soon as possible. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as it did to get this one going, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks again.